We're here to tell a story that happened before the Civil War or the Emancipation Proclamation, and long before news of freedom reached Texas, when the Union Army reached Galveston on Juneteenth, or June 19, 1985. Let's introduce ourselves.
My name is Teresa Bass. I'm a member of the Bethlehem Church and George's and Sarah Carter Community Development Center.
And I'm Susanna Davison from London Grove Friends Meeting. I'm also a guide at the Kennett Underground Railroad Center in Kennett Square.
The North Star Mural was commissioned in 1960 in tribute to Harriet, who liberated herself and afterward led the freedom seekers safely through Maryland, Delaware into the Kennett area of Chester County.
On our historic tours for the Kennett Underground Railroad Center, we stop here, and I briefly tell the story of a young man enslaved in Maryland in the 1850s. One day he was smuggled onto a train headed for Wilmington by an engineer who was an abolitionist. To avoid capture, the man jumped as the train slowed down near the Kennett rail station. His foot was injured. A porter picked the man up in a wheelbarrow from where he was lying and took him to safety in the home of James Walker, a black man who lived at 303 South Union.
Mr. Walker called Dr. Isaac Johnson, the local physician, cared for by the Walker family, nursed by Mrs. Esther Hayes, a neighborhood Dr. Johnson. The doctor visited his patient every day in a tiny room above the Walker kitchen where he held over many weeks. The man was finally able to travel northward with help from the conductor of an underground railroad. Several years after the Civil War, a well-dressed black man came to Dr. Johnson's office and introduced himself as Johnson Hayes Walker, the name that he had chosen to honor those who helped him to survive and prosper in freedom.
When my tours view the mural, I mentioned that Harriet Tubman went on to become a nurse, a scout for the Union Army, and a leader of colored troops in South Carolina during the Civil War. Two other nurses were Esther Hayes and her daughter, who was also a nurse and had been trained at Women's Medical College in Philadelphia, which was founded by another local abolitionist, Dr. Bartholomew Fussell. Together, they nursed on Civil War battlefields in Virginia. Sadly, Esther Hayes died of a disease that she caught while caring for injured and ill soldiers.
We made this video of the Mural of Juneteenth in 2021 because the next year the new library will cover it. We hope there will be some way for the library to show how this community was an important part of Underground Railroad, where people of African and European descent worked together to help freedom seekers cross the Mason-Dixon line on their way to liberty.
Thank you for watching our mural-inspired tribute to Juneteenth 2021. Our videographer was Reverend Gustavo Castaneda of the Willowdale Chapel, and my co-producer was Reverend Lilith Bao from Bethel AME Church on East Linden Street in Kennett Square.